Hello, everybody. Welcome to Studio 8.1, episode 70, with me, Jarvis Todd, and my editor and chief of Telemedia magazine, Mr. Paul Skeldon. Hello,
Hello.
Paul.
Hello, mate. Hello. With the big
Now,
7-0.
yeah, I know the big 7-0. Now, today we are going to be talking about World Telemedia Dubai and all the very good reasons why we've taken the long established European version of World Telemedia over to Dubai to service the MENA region. For those of you that don't know, who obviously been hiding in a bunker somewhere, uh, perhaps I shouldn't say that. The show is going to be happening on the 11th and 13th of May at the Marriott Jumeirah Hotel. Paul Skeldon has been spending a lot of time with local players in the telemedia markets relevant to the show, specifically MENA, India, and Asia, Southern Asia, and Africa. And we're going to be talking about one of the reasons why we can already confidently say that this new version of World Telemedia is going to be such a roaring success. So, without further ado, Paul, we're going to feature, and this relates very much to the conference that we're going to be running in Dubai next week, the main kind of trends, selling points for the MENA region. And we're going to be talking about MENA, Africa, India, and as I said, Asia is going to be following on from that in a little less detail. So first and foremost, let's talk about MENA. Now, we've seen a huge uptake from a lot of new faces, a lot of operators coming to and signing up for World Telemedia Dubai. And there's some very good reasons for that, isn't there?
There are indeed. I mean, trying to find hard and fast numbers about the MVAS sort of sector in sort of specifically in these regions is actually quite difficult. So I think that's something that we need to look into, is maybe doing some research for next year, because there isn't any, and I think it's a huge and growing market. But to give it some sort of context, that the sort of mobile contributes $360 billion to the MENA economy, and employs 700,000 people in that region. So it's already a huge and established thing. And most of the population, certainly in the urban areas across the Middle East and North Africa and India, are all using MVAS for entertainment and spending a considerable amount of money doing it. It's a huge contributor. I mean, in MENA alone, the network operators are earning sort of $66 billion a year, likely to grow to about 88 billion or more by 2030 from sort of services. So that it's a huge market, and this is why we're doing the event there, because it's huge, it's growing. It's managed to sort of leapfrog many other markets in terms of technology use. So you're seeing a lot of the sort of cutting edge use of technology, AI, and that kind of thing, to create content, services, handle billing, fraud, all those sorts of things. So it's an interesting market in itself. It's an interesting market, I think, for anyone involved in MVAS anywhere in the world to come and sort of see, to some degree, what's going to happen next everywhere else.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. I mean, one thing that I noticed, and I don't want to run down sort of established European markets, because obviously,
No, no,
MVAS is
of
well established and
course,
still
yeah.
a growing and exciting business. However, and I don't, you can tell me if I'm wrong here. I sense that the MNOs in these regions are far more proactive, apparently, and far more positive towards enabling MVAS services and premium content services, entertainment services, info services, all the things that come under the sort of telemedia umbrella. I feel though as though their attitude to the industry is a little different, isn't it, to the more established
De-
European MNOs that
Definitely.
we've been working
Def-
with over the last 20 years.
Yeah, definitely. The whole sort of culture around mobile is different, really. It's come about more quickly in sort of established sort of European markets. It was a sort of slow evolution from telephone services to mobile, that were fledgling mobile things, and then eventually reached sort of smartphones and all the joyous things you can do with those. In the middle, in MENA in particular, though it does apply to most of these sort of evolving and emerging markets, is that it's happened very rapidly, and it's gone from sort of zero to smartphone penetration really quickly. And what's happening in these countries, particularly in the Middle East, you're seeing a lot of government investment in sort of aiding the sort of rollout of networks and connectivity. And the networks themselves are quite adept in MENA at creating services, finding service providers that service that what the consumers themselves want. And there's a huge hunger for, well, streaming video content, long form and short form. Sports stuff is really big. We've seen, I mean, a lot of sporting events have taken place in the Middle East over the
Yeah,
past sort of
that's right.
5 to 10 years.
Yeah, that's
Again, as part of a government initiative, and it's really sort of brought about a huge consumer interest in it. So that kind of content is all there and it's being consumed rapidly. And I think that the network operators are much more open to seeing this as a sort of huge, viable sort of business proposition. The world is all about streaming. In these regions, it's the network operators who carry that and bill for it and sell it to consumers, and that's where the consumers go to buy it. So it's the same sort of ecosystem, but it's come about much more quickly. And I think it's missed all those sort of hurdles that we've seen elsewhere over the years, where it's sort of been slow and difficult to get things going in European markets. And there's been challenges and problems here. They've sort of learned from that and circumvented it and leapt straight into offering what consumers want, and consumers are more than willing to pay for it.
Well, I was going to say, I was going to sort of pick up on that point. I mean, I think in many ways, the markets that World Telemedia Dubai are specifically or conveniently servicing. These markets, Africa, MENA, India, South Asia, as we've already talked about, in many ways, they're capitalizing on the mistakes that were made in from the past in the European markets where there were problems with fraud, there were problems with compliance, all that sort of thing. So, and a lot of that has been dealt with, as we've talked about many times, extremely effectively. And so, as these new developing, emerging markets have come online, they've been able to understand the challenges because of what's happened in the past in the sort of our core, if you like, European markets. And therefore they're not operating in a market where they're all of a sudden having to tackle bad actors. I mean, fraud is a thing, but a
Mm.
lot of the lessons have been learnt and the industry's moving forward very quickly, and I think that they're sort of short stopping that a bit.
I think so, absolutely. I mean, I think that that's not sort of it's not the land of milk and honey completely. I mean, there have been and still are some compliance issues in certain markets. There are bad actors. There are dodgy services do crop up. What I think that they've learned in this sector from the European market is that you can act quickly, and I think also now they can tap into all the tools that we now have in this industry to combat that. So MCP, Insight, Avena, Impello, all of those people uh, have excellent tools and services to sort of help with compliance, help with risk and fraud management. And so when things do go slightly awry in any of these Middle Eastern markets, they can leap on them and deal with it. So I think that's the thing. There are problems, but they're shut down more quickly, and so it makes for a much more easy market because even though there might be challenges, there are solutions. Whereas years ago we didn't have those here in the UK and across Europe. So I think that's another thing that they've learned and that's happened, and that we can learn again from and reapply back in the established markets from what we'll be discussing in World Telemedia in Dubai about the MENA region.
I would thank you very much for that. What I would also say to all of our viewers is if you are interested in hearing more about how to be successful in these emerging markets, then we will be talking about this as a common theme throughout the series of podcasts that we put together. So please remember to like, subscribe, and comment below, and you will get more of this information every couple of weeks from us. If that is, you're not able to come to Dubai on the 11th to 13th of May. You can also there hear from not just Paul and myself about why you should be and how you should be capitalizing on these fantastic telemedia opportunities. But you can hear from some of the leading lights, and Paul's been very active putting together a stellar lineup of speakers at the show. And if you want to see the full conference program, go to wtevent.com, click on the Dubai image, and you'll see how hard Paul's been working to put together a really fantastic lineup. And again, going back to what we were saying about MNOs, it was really nice to see MNO involvement in the conference,
Mm.
because obviously they are keen to put themselves forward and say, look, we're open for business and we're here to support the MVAS industry, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And they very much see themselves, I think, as part of the ecosystem, which I'm not saying they don't here in Europe, but I think that there's a sort of a degree of them and us mentality in the more established markets. Whereas here in MENA, it is very much sort of they're part of the ecosystem and are keen to work with the rest of the industry to create this sort of value chain and deliver these services. So yeah, there's a lot of MNO involvement and input. There's going to be a lot of MNOs, I think, also in the audience and
Yeah.
amongst the delegates. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a good talking shop. I think out the conference is hopefully going to be excellent and informative. But I think around that there is going to be a lot of interesting discussions and conversations going on.
Yeah. Well, talking of interesting discussions, now let's talk about Africa. Now, we've certainly talked about Africa, many times in the past, certainly at the shows and in the various podcasts. I think we've made the point many times that people talk about Africa but don't quite understand that it's actually 47 individual countries, with 47 different cultures and 47 different sort of individual challenges within those markets. So it's a sort of a bit of a misnomer talking about the African market, and we know that. But just in general, of course, moving to Dubai means that we're much more accessible, if you like, for African players, and we're certainly seeing a lot more involvement in the show from that region or that continent. Let's just talk about that for a minute, because there has been really substantial growth in the MVAS sector in the last couple of years, right?
Absolutely, yeah. The African market has really come along. It's hard to put some hard and fast numbers on it. I think partly because it is such a massive, well, it's a continent, as you say, made up of 47 individual countries. So collating all the information about how much revenue is generated from MVAS across all that is nigh on impossible currently. South Africa alone generates about $17 billion. So that gives you a sort of
Yeah.
taster. But I think the thing with the African market is very much like the Middle Eastern market. It's leapfrogged into this position where suddenly there is a lot of network capacity being rolled out in urban areas. I think across all of these regions, the less urbanized places are poor in terms of connectivity, and so there is a disparity between the sort of digital haves in cities and the digital have-nots in the country. But Starlink and the likes will probably eventually change that. But there has been this huge growth, and there is an emerging sort of middle class in a lot of these countries who have a bit more disposable income. Networks again are getting some government investment in rolling out 4G, 5G, even in some places, and so we've suddenly got this sort of need and want amongst the consumer base for content, services, and entertainment on their mobile. And I think part of the joy of the internet is that you do see through the ubiquity of YouTube Shorts and that anyone in any country can see what's available. And this inspires people to create their own content and content creators to generate their own businesses. And it just creates this market, as does international sport and domestic sport. And so it's an interesting mix across Africa of content, some of which is translatable across borders, some of it's very localized. But overall, most of the countries are experiencing similar levels of growth. Some of them are stellar and really sort of roaring away. Others less so. But even in places like Ethiopia, there's projected to be quite extraordinary growth in mobile services. It's tipped as one of the sort of next markets to really
Yeah.
go in Africa. So I think yes, North Africa in the MENA region is sort of inspiring. The rest of Africa is really very much catching up, and is there's a lot of opportunity there, a huge amount of opportunity. MENA is an opportunity. Africa, a phenomenal opportunity potentially once the
Yeah.
networks are rolled out.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. It's interesting that you do make a similar point with MENA in that it is going to be very important for companies like Starlink to give connectivity
Mm.
to the rural areas. I mean, ironically, we still talk about that in established markets like the UK.
Yeah,
Um,
totally.
but the truth of the matter is, I think with the insatiable demand from consumers. Um, Presenting a kind of compelling case to those infrastructure companies and to those MNOs to ensure that they get those consumers connected. They know full well that once they're connected, they're going to be generating, significant revenues through, as you say, a range of classic telemedia services, everything from sport and games through to infotainment and education. And I think also in many ways, the phone is sort of usurped the television
Mm.
in these
Yeah,
kind of areas, and that handset, directly talking to a consumer
yeah.
and being able to offer them bespoke, tailored content, which is what the telemedia industry is very good at doing, along with you know baked in payment mechanisms, makes it a compelling case for huge amounts of focus and infrastructure investment going into all of these areas. So I can't see the numbers doing anything other than going up and going up at a
Mm.
serious rate. I mean, there's a nice kind of sort of 2 to 3% growth rate being quoted at the moment. I suspect that's going to we're going to see even bigger numbers than that over the next couple of years. And in no small part down to aggregators, gateways, content providers, MNOs coming together at shows like World
Mm.
Telemedia and coming up with compelling propositions, putting partnerships together, and delivering billable services to consumers right the way across the regions. Now, let's just have a quick focus before we go on India, which is it's sort of, I mean, many similarities in terms of some of the issues we've talked about already, but in quite a lot of ways, a bit of a sort of law unto itself, right? Because there's a sort of different handset issue going on there,
Mm.
which makes that market just a bit more complicated.
Yeah, it's very much a more established market in India. Um, it has got a bigger and more sort of entrenched middle class who have been spending on entertainment and gadgetry and tech, for
A
more
long time.
years.
Hmm.
So it's more established, and there's a lot of very, there's more than 1 billion people live in India. It's a significant proportion of the world's population. It has its own content culture that sort of is fairly sort of self-sustaining and self-sufficient. What is interesting there is that handsets aren't sort of dished out by the network operators. The consumers buy them themselves. There's many cheap handsets made in India and others imported from China. So the problem that the Indian market has is trying to make things compatible with this vast array of handsets. I mean, most of them are sort of Android based operating systems, but still the sort of form factors of the screens are different. So it's the more established market and it's still got a lot of growth in it, but it's quite a challenging market to leverage because of this huge diversity of handsets. And again, the network side of it isn't great in the rural areas, in the conurbations where there are hundreds of millions of people. It's fine. Outside of that, there isn't. So there is a lot of growth potential, but I think it comes with a different set of challenges in many ways that are more technical rather than sort of cultural. Um, but yeah, we got some people speaking about India because I think it's a very interesting market to look at because they approach things slightly differently. They like to mash up things. There's a lot of gaming and music mashups where music services have a gaming element and vice versa. And they're currently much more into that. And whether that's something that's translatable or not, I don't know. But it's an interesting sort of form factor they have with their content. I have to
Mm,
say that, and they also love fantasy sports leagues are huge.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we've talked many times about the value of having local partners. And,
Mm,
that seems to be a constant theme and has been a constant theme for many years for anyone that operates successfully in the telemedia industry, which has been founded on the ability to trade cross border. Therefore, again, it's sort of baked in that anybody looking to expand their services into new countries, new continents, should understand that a really deep understanding of the local culture, probably provided by a reliable local partner, is definitely the key to success. And probably, jumping on a plane and just setting up an office in Calcutta and thinking that what you've been selling in Germany, France, Spain, whatever, is going to work is going to be a big mistake.
mm,
Which, as I say, goes back to why events like World Telemedia are so important, because in order to have a partnership, you need to see the whites of somebody's eyes, you need to get to know them, and you need to,
mm,
form strong bonds, which can help you, uh, you know, provide the services successfully into those markets, and in a sustainable way, basically. And I think, that I think India highlights the point you make, highlights that
mm.
very well. Um, just before we go, anything to talk about with regards to Asia, Southern Asia? Well, sorry, we've done Southern Asia, the Asian markets. Any
Well,
ideas?
the Asian markets, we're going to sort of also bring in sort of what's known as Southern Asia, which are the sort of countries like Bangladesh and Pakistan that sort of border sort of India, that make up the sort of Indian subcontinent, where again there's huge opportunity. They're in some ways not as advanced as they are in India, but they're not equally not backward. And so we're going to sort of talk about some of that. There's a lot of opportunity there. Obviously, the sort of conflict that has erupted once again between India and Pakistan muddies the waters a little with that, but that's an interesting area. I think in the sort of discussions we're going to have at World Telemedia in Dubai, particularly around India, we're going to start to talk about Asian markets. We're probably going to start to talk about China. I think a lot of things, super apps like WeChat, that kind of idea that's huge in China, is starting to gain traction in markets like India and in some African markets, interestingly as well. There's quite a huge political and technological influence from China in Africa. So I think it's inevitable we're going to talk about China. I'd like to think that there'll be people there who can also help us sort of understand the wider Asian market, Vietnam, Thailand, those sort of countries. But they're sort of further away. And I think that's perhaps something for next year's event, or perhaps even another event that's more sort of located out that way.
I'm not about to announce World Telemedia Beijing, but you never know. Watch this
You never
space.
know.
Just finally, for anybody that doesn't know, if you're still sort of 50-50 about whether you're going to turn up to World Telemedia Dubai, I can tell you that the show is already officially a success. We've got in excess of 400 delegates, a sold out exhibition with 50 leading telemedia providers, an array of fantastic sponsors. Please go to wtevent.co.uk. Of course, I'm going to sign off by just saying that, no World Telemedia event would be complete without a fantastic lineup or schedule of networking events. And of course, on Sunday, the 11th, we're going to be kicking off with our Welcome Beach Party, which is going to be down in Bal Harbour with the magnificent skyline views of the marina area. And we're very grateful to all of our sponsors for footing the bill on that one. So there'll be entertainment, free flowing drinks, wonderful food, and an amazing backdrop. So that's why we're kicking off. There is a director's lunch, as many of you know. Sadly, that is also sold out, but don't worry, get yourself down, get your name on the list for next time. We will, of course, as with any World Telemedia, have an 8.1 lounge with free flowing coffees and teas and all that sort of stuff, and a very good place for people to meet and also to get a look at what's the latest from our 8.1 platform with our chat board, which is a great place for you to go and tell everyone what it is you're looking for or what it is you're selling. Incidentally, if you have set up a free profile or even a premium profile on the 8.1 platform, we use that as our main meeting tool, if you like, so you can access freely the full attendee list. If you're logged in, you can see the professional profiles. You can even just click to email and set up a meeting in Dubai. So please do consider doing that. There's a number of sponsored hospitality suites on the show floor, 3A Net, Moby Mines, MT2 to name but a few. So do stop by and have a bit of light refreshment in between those all important meetings. And then on the Monday evening, we've got the Sunset Terrace Drinks Party, World Telemedia tradition. That's going to be on the West Beach Terrace, which is accessed just off of the exhibition hall. So kind of indoor, outdoor, expo, drinks, cocktails, entertainment, lots of opportunities to take selfies and make all of your colleagues extremely jealous that you've been living the high life in Dubai and you've come back to the office with a mountain of new business contacts and hopefully a huge amount of new business in the MENA, Asia, India regions and beyond. And then after that, we'll be turning our attentions to World Telemedia to Marbella. But let's just leave it that there.
Let's leave it there.
Paul needs to go, and it looks like he's in the airport already. Needs to go and pack his shorts and his sun cream, and we will see everybody on the other side of World Telemedia Dubai when I'm sure Paul and I will be really, really enjoying picking up some of the memories and some of the information and news that we've gathered during our time in Dubai. So if you're not coming to see us in Dubai, I'm sorry about that. If you are, we look forward to seeing you in a few days' time. So, Paul,
Absolutely.
you need to get to your flight. So I'll
I
see
do.
you.
I need to board, and I'll
You
see
need
you
to board.
all in
So thanks
Dubai.
for watching, everyone. And as I said, remember to like, subscribe, and please do comment in the spaces below. See you next week.